Okay, so thank you very much, Andrew. So welcome to week 62 of the Indigenous Global Unity Summit event.
61.
61, yes. Once again, my page is flipped over to the next page because I'm always looking forward to the events of the following week. So we are in week 61 of the IGU Summit. We did have a guest speaker, Dr. Atama, who was scheduled to come on for this week's event. I like to start these events by saying Sawubona. I see you, I see myself in you, I see your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles, and I see your ancestors too. Because interconnectedness does not end with the two people who are greeting each other, but extends to include the ancestors. Because all beings and Mother Nature are connected, and there is no sense of being separate. I see myself in all beings, and therefore, if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. I do want to start again with the land acknowledgement to say that we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we're meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We'd also thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So, as always, I do like to mention the events that are coming up. The last week here in Canada, we actually had Pope Francis come for his Healing and Reconciliation pastoral visit to Canada. That tour took place from July 24th to 29th and was dubbed as Walking Together on the Path of Healing and Reconciliation. So the Holy Father first committed to visiting Canada after accepting the invitation of Canada's Catholic bishops in late October 2021. The March and April 2022 events, where more than 30 Indigenous delegates who were representing First Nations, Métis, and Inuit elders, along with knowledge keepers, survivors of residential schools, and youth, did spend a week in Rome meeting privately with Pope Francis to share their stories, discuss the historical and ongoing intergenerational trauma that continues to impact Indigenous peoples. So after issuing a public apology on April 1st of this year, the Pope reiterated his desire to travel to Canada to continue the healing and reconciliation journey. The historic visit also followed the statement of apology by the Catholic bishops of Canada to the Indigenous peoples of this land in 2021. So I will put into the chat some information about the papal visit that just took place, including this agenda. So the Pope visited Edmonton on Sunday, July 24th to Wednesday, July 27th. And he also visited Quebec City, where he spent a couple of days, July 27th to 29th, with Quebec being the eastern hub for those who may wish to travel to see Pope Francis. And the Pope did Holy Mass at the National Shrine of Saint Anne de Beaupré, Quebec, and he did Vespers with the bishops. And then finally on Friday, July 29th, he did a private meeting with the members of the Society of Jesus with a delegation of Indigenous peoples from Eastern Canada, and then went to Iqaluit which is a small community of 8,000 people, but is the largest number of Inuit people in Canada. And he invited Inuit delegates to visit the North during their meetings. So he had a private meeting as well with the former residential school students. So 2 days ago as well was August 2nd, which was the first anniversary of the founding of the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. Again, in the chat, you will find information about that event, which just happened 2 days ago. So 1 year ago today, on August 4th, 2021, in a statement by UNFPA Executive Director Dr. Natalia Kanem, the UN General Assembly began building this bridge towards justice with the unanimous decision to implement and establish a permanent forum of people of African descent. So the forum of the permanent forum, or the formation of the permanent forum of people of African descent, comprises 5 members selected by governments and another 5 members appointed by the UN Human Rights Council. So again, in the chat is more information about that. You will also see in the chat the OHCHR, Permanent Forum of People of African Descent, description on the website of the UN General Assembly, which had decided to establish this forum, with the first session intended to happen this December from the 5th to the 8th in Geneva. So this is now being in the planning stages. So coming up this month as well are the following events. First, the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, which takes place on Tuesday, August 9th. The day is intended to be the start of the AHIABGA UnityNet 11 days of globally coordinated community bubble fund festivals, which are intended to continue until World Humanitarian Day on Friday, August 19th. These are intended to be the last day of the 11 days of the globally coordinated community bubble fund festivals. The most important day of the coordinated community bubble fund festivals being International Youth Day on Friday, August 12th. So the local communities can have a bubble fund festival on any date between August 9th and 19th in recognition of all the important dates. This month, August 9th, International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, August 12th, International Youth Day, and August 19th, World Humanitarian Day, as it's noted. Again, in the chat, you will find information about all of these different days, including the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, World Humanitarian Day, and the International Youth Day as well. So we also have International Bubble Fund Festival Network. So that as we plant those trees of peace and reconciliation, we are intending to follow those up with these Bubble Fund festivals as well. So those networks that we are creating for the Bubble Fund festivals are supporting our Spark for Humanity Super Jubilee 400 Spark Classrooms network as well. So they do support the original Global Unity Pandemic, which was the partnership that initially came together in 2020 during the pandemic, including here in the Toronto area, where we have our Greater Unity Pandemic local team called the Victory Pandemic GTA, which was created in that year. So as well, you will find links in the chat to the Greater Unity Pandemic Collaborative in that description as well. One additional thing that we should be noted this morning is the thing we should remember, the greater Unity Network, UnityNet, and our practical reconciliation. One of our leaders wrote to me last week that we should take this time in history, or herstory, as some people say, as an opportunity to reflect on the role of the military-industrial complex and how they are playing this and the people in this propaganda war regarding weaponization of Gaia, and to consider its impact on Mother Earth. So Corin Smith, who was the one who noted this to me, said James Lovelock, the originator of the Gaia theory, who just recently died on his 103rd birthday, said for the last few years, it's likely very much too late to reverse the course of climate change and to achieve drawdown. Even if we were to achieve net zero, it does not mean that humanity can survive under the current paradigm of infrastructure development. So we have to have a radical rethink about the infrastructure that we're building in all of our local communities, because the vast majority of what we are building right now all over the world will be unsuitable to the new climate regime that we're just now entering, where the effects that we are seeing today will be much, much worse than anything we've seen before so far, including all the fires and the droughts and the heat waves, the melting glaciers, the ice caps, and all the things that are already accelerating and getting worse even by the month. So Corin also noted to be in the last week when James Lovelock passed away, saying Lovelock spent his life advocating for climate measures starting decades before any others started to take notice of the crisis. And by the time he died, he did not believe that there was hope of avoiding some of the worst impacts of the climate crisis. But Corin also noted that the underlying challenge that we're facing as in this paradigm in human conditions is so fundamental that the ideas for depopulation are actively being promoted. So we have to be able to read through the propaganda, decipher the overt and the underlying logic, and be as objective as possible with the facts. So in our own language within the UnityNet, our role is to dispel the false positives and the alarmism of such things, because we know there are solutions. In the short term, it's not going to be things like food forests or biochar. Those are long-term solutions that will need to be implemented, but not right away, because it is our very survival as a species that is at stake. We need to find ways to adapt to this new climate paradigm. It is happening. It will continue to happen and get worse, perhaps far worse. Corin did say, as an example of the change in the paradigm of dialogue, that we need to remember that we are fighting with peace, not for it, which means using higher consciousness and achieving objectives. We're not fighting a war with each other to save the planet. We're making peace with the planet to save ourselves. Therefore, the real relationship in our midst and the messaging that we convey needs to be sharpened to present a new strategy. This strategy is what Corin and our colleague Jenny, who are at the heart of this campaign, are calling the Gaia's Guitar strategy, which they've been working together to bring to the members of UnityNet as concisely as possible in a timely manner. Hopefully we'll be hearing from them soon about it. As Corin also noted as well, the sooner we have viral strategy articulated, better. Because in dealing with each other, we needed to create a shared consciousness with peacemaking that is more contagious than fear and war. So I'd like to remind everyone as well about our 2022 AHIABGA UnityNet Globally Coordinated Abraham Project tree planting that happened on Sunday, June 5th, including here in the Greater Toronto area. We did the 2 tree planting events in Mississauga, the first at Meadowood Park, with the support of the City of Mississauga, who donated the 10 trees for us to plant. There were 5 different species. The second one was at the Continental Dance Club with the owner, Brian Torner, world champion trainer, choreographer, 15-time world championship adjudicator and championship ballroom dancer. So again, in the chat, you will find information about those events that we did on World Environment Day. So for the members of UnityNet and the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation and Indigenous Unity flag, these both represent the unity of humanity and are actually far more important than our individual lives and machinations of the political leaders who just don't seem to get it and recognize that most people don't understand it yet, that God or Mother Nature, or however you define it, loves all of us and all life on Earth and in the universe equally. So I noted before, we're beginning already to start preparing for next year's 2023 World Environment Day tree planting and the flag raising ceremonies here in the city of Markham. By working with the city, my city councillor, Issa Lee, and her team at the city of Markham. I'd also like to work with our counterparts in Africa and the US, such as in California and New York, and with the EDFU Foundation, and Africa Coaches League, and Cash Community Development as well, especially the any Native American or Canadian organizations with Cash Community Development being a 501(c)(3) nonprofit designed to address the financial needs of Indigenous peoples throughout the US, Alaska, and Hawaii. So we want to ensure that every tree of peace and reconciliation that we plant in the world will have a commemorative plaque, a flagpole erected beside the tree, as along with the Indigenous Unity flag raising ceremony done at the time of the planting, along with the Pledge of Allegiance from the members of the local INAB Collaborative, as a promise that they will empower the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, our FFHE, who are implementing the local solutions to achieving these global goals locally, that where they place that flag and tree with those spaces intending to become sacred spaces in our local communities, the symbols of peace, reconciliation, forgiveness, compassion, collaboration, and regeneration. And the people involved in the planting ceremonies signing up to commit to leave no one behind in their own local communities, and ensuring that they pledge to commit to support all of the people and the living things in their local communities, moving forward together in support of a project of decolonization and re-indigenization, both of our minds and our physical spaces in lockstep with all of the Indigenous people of the world. So we did our third tea diplomacy event on Saturday, June 18th. That was Sustainable Gastronomy Day. That was the last of the Tea Diplomacy Initiative events that had been scheduled for this year, though our friends at Global Peace Let's Talk or the Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development are free to do more Tea Diplomacy Initiative events throughout the rest of the year, like during the October Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which is to take place from October 4th to the 16th. Again, you will find in the chat more information about these tea diplomacy events. So the most recent tea diplomacy event on Saturday, May 21st was, that was the first on International Tea Day and the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, and the first AHIABGA Global Unity Network inaugural tea diplomacy event, March 21st, on International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, World Poetry Day, and International Day of Forests. So again, in the chat, you will find information about these other events. Would like to note that our tea diplomacy events will be repeated every year on these special occasions that are in the UN calendar. So this special occasion being, of course, the Week of Solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and World Poetry Day, along with the Indigenous Languages Day discussion group that we created so that we recognize languages as an important aspect of the dialogues that we have. So I will now share my screen and start the presentation for today. Give me 1 second.
I do want to bring to the attention that I made multiple co-hosts, so please be alert to people entering and admit them. I'm going to step away and I'll make Juliet Mayabo the host until I get back. But the ball's in your court, so please pay attention to allowing people to come in and mute those whose speakers are not muted. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Oops, I'm on the wrong page here. Let's start up at the beginning again. Apologies for that. Oh, from the top. I do start these presentations every week by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors. So in particular, I want to thank Andrew and Andrew Networks. We call our door opening network of the Global Unity Network. This weekly Thursday Zoom call is committed to take place until December 2023, so next year. Andrew Networks also rebroadcasting any production-ready episodes on AHIABGA.org domain, redirected as well to UCIT-TV site. Our logo indicates this is the 21 to 23 IGU Summit event. We do plan to continue delivering these until the end of 2023. This is in alignment with the UN Global Compact 2021 to 23 vision and strategy. So you'll see the logos on the page for the Maui Haloha Project, 5 Points Youth Foundation, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Future Lit Foundation, Global Peace Let's Talk, the American International Education Federation, the EDFU Foundation, the Conservancy Trust, the SAGA Foundation, the LA Global Foundation, as well as our own logos for the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, the Greater Unity Network, the Indigenous Unity Flag, the Unity 4K Clubs, and the HEPTA Matrix Partnership template of UnityNet International, as well as many others. Again, in the chat, you'll find those links to many of those different organizations. First thing as well, our sponsors, because it is Andrew Networks that donates our hosting and promotional support services, where Andrew Networks is a brand and domain name owned by RxDC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels like TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many others. So Andrew Networks is not only our primary sponsor supporting the promotional ecosystems for the UnityNet initiative, the Indigenous Global Unity Summit that we're doing right now, which continues to the end of 2023. But Andrew is also our Yes partner that's helping us open doors to the members of our network so they're able to discover their inner selves and passions, and where Andrew Networks is working with the people who occupy the various nodes of our Global Unity Network so they can come together with the people of the network acting like a net to support the dreams of our members so they can leverage those passions, transform their visions of a better future for themselves and their communities into reality that makes sense for both themselves and their communities, however they might define what that better future is, collectively, as they seek to work together in partnership to leave no one behind. Again, in the chat, you will find that link to Andrew Networks. So Andrew also founded the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Activists, and Advocates in September 2019. The focus being on localizing Sustainable Development Goals during this decade of action and delivery of the SDGs, which started in 2020. Andrew later appointed me as AHIABGA representative for Canada, La Francophonie, and the Commonwealth of Nations, published January 1st, 2020, later appointed as a representative for Turtle Island in early 2021. Again, you will find a link to the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors in the chat. So I'll let you know who I am. My name is Lloyd Halfrey, the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energem University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, in New York. I am located in the city of Markham in the Don River watershed and the German Mills Creek subwatershed, draining into Lake Ontario. So the lowest of the last of the North American Great Lakes in the Greater Toronto area, Southern Ontario, Canada, on Turtle Island, or North America. So Energem University is a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, a UN academic impact member, and a partner. They have a virtual university established and created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. So Energem does this by designing and implementing their projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating the core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into the local communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. So Energem is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Importantly, we also support local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all the various integrated solutions for achieving these closed-loop systems that support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. Again, in the chat, we'll find a link to my own details, which you can see on the screen. I am also the co-founder and administrator of the Energem Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization. We are seeking to undertake something called life value peace education in the context of life learning gardens. Again, in the chat, you'll find the link you see on the screen. I mentioned I was also designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles. My portfolio covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. As a member of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists, we are seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities establish these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, the INABCs, that will come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are localizing the global goals, starting, of course, with the Sustainable Development Goals, while we seek ways as well to leave no one behind. So again, in the chat, you'll find the links to connect with the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. So I am co-founder of the Global Unity Network, also known as UnityNet, established by UnityNet International, which helped to create UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, and all of the other global groups in Asia and the Americas and Europe. So the Global Unity Business Group came together as a coalition of small businesses to establish, manage, and grow the Global Unity Network, now referred to as UnityNet, as a result of the original Global Unity Business Group, which I had been describing as a humanitarian enterprise and global sustainable and regenerative development corporation, supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure, set up as life learning gardens, along with the hybrid virtual learning platform we call the BCN, with the Interchange for Peace. We are now rebranding as UnityNet International in alignment with our first continental chapter, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. So the original Global Unity Business Group was created in order to formalize this ad hoc International Advisory Board process of globalization of the global goals, starting with the SDGs, done by the establishment of the Global Unity Network, which includes the Unity Gardens and the Unity Learning Networks, along with the dedicated UnityNet nodes and chapters we are creating, which are all important components of this, what we call network of networks. So the latest way I do describe who we are is as a network of people and organizations supporting the ad hoc International Advisory Board process of globalization of the global goals, the SDGs, and the global transition to a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So we are creating a global empowerment network of professionals in regenerative development to support all of the members, including the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are helping to implement the various local regenerative climate smart solutions that are required to achieve a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So humanitarian entrepreneurship we define as a social enterprise that focuses on the delivery of the various solutions for achieving the sustainable development goals of the global goals locally. UnityNet has a mandate to educate our youth so that they know how to build this regenerative climate smart infrastructure in all of their local communities. So our role at UnityNet is to establish the hybrid infrastructure that's necessary for delivering the learning programs, the education and the training that provides all the local humanitarian entrepreneurs with the appropriate knowledge, tools, and processes that they need to help implement the global goals. Currently, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals. They're doing this locally within their own local communities with the overarching goal of leaving no one behind. So it's important to note, again, that the existing social media, our WhatsApp, Facebook, and LinkedIn groups that we're using right now are being used as a placeholder as we build the Global Unity Network, prepare to launch, where we'll eventually get all of the people, companies, and nodes of the network on this Interchange for Peace CCN, where they will be able to gain access to the tools and services that are available there, much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all of these globally coordinated real-world events, projects, enterprises, and infrastructure. Again, in the chat is the link to our social media for the Global Unity Business Group, the original one, now called UnityNet International. So the Global Unity Network, UnityNet, was created to showcase our global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting again with the 17 SDGs. Our purpose is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind, because the existing economic paradigm is focused on making money for those who are already wealthy, usually by extracting resources through the exploitation or over-exploitation of people in the natural world. So the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. So our focus is on the billions of people who exist or subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various local regenerative and climate smart enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. So as an entry point, we are focused in particular on the communities that are the most food insecure. Again, in the chat are some links to some social media. So UnityNet is promoting the delivery of this suite of practical solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the SDGs. During this period until 2030, we're focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and the enterprises they create, using the hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training and learning programs, the platforms, the curricula, and the primary focus being on the delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in these practical settings, practical learning. along with leveraging these open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INAB collaborative teams to establish local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all the local communities around the world. So the UnityNet or Unity Garden classrooms set up in collaboration with these existing schools and local communities are used for the local delivery of the practical learning programs for all the FFHE members, so they can learn to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and internationally, in order to produce income and therefore prosperity for themselves and the people in their local communities, for all the people on all continents, with the intention and goal, of course, of leaving no one behind. Again, in the chat, you'll find a link to the Smart Cities Network as well. So we do promote through our virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. We use the various practical social media networking and trade tools, including those of the modern fourth industrial revolution. We are combining the wisdom of the crowds with the deep Indigenous knowledge of our ancestors and the living Indigenous people of this earth in order to learn from each other about how to share abundance of this planet and to create productive, regenerative, climate smart landscapes wherever we may live in and around each and all of our local communities. So our intention is to help restore nature, restore biodiversity, ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as stewards of this one and only beautiful planet. Again, in the chat, you'll find a link to the Unity Biodiversity Network. The Ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassador process of localization of the global goals is intended to help everyone in their own local communities establish these local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community empowerment networks, these INAB collaboratives that provide support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises who are building the Unity Gardens. So the Unity Gardens are intended to be established in each local community across the global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America on Turtle Island, and in Asia and Oceania as well. The process of establishing the local INAB collaboratives is done by taking part in the Abraham Project, where we plant the trees of peace and reconciliation and do the ceremonies. This started on Sunday, June 5th on World Environment Day. Continues throughout the planting season locally, wherever we are. Some communities will also establish twin trees of peace and reconciliation and twinned Unity Gardens and INAB collaboratives too. So the twinning or the thinning or quadritting of more can be done through the CTP program, which is a process of twinning the local community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprises and twinning the local community INAB collaboratives. So we're building here is a global network of local INAB collaboratives, where all of the members of each local community empowerment network connected to each other, watching over, talking to each other at the global level, where each local INAB collaborative has a diverse set of members from those 7 sectors of every community. So the public, the private, the civil society, the academic, the interfaith, the finance, and the orange economy, or the creative sector. So all the members will also be watching, promoting, and helping each other, supporting the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs in their local communities, who will be empowered by all of the members of the Global Unity Network, where all activities are also intended to be transparent to all members of the global network, including all members of the local INAB collaboratives, who are also accountable to and for the success of the local collaborative Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise in each of their own local communities. So if they aren't successful, if those FFHE who are living in the local communities fail to be successful as they build and run their local cooperative humanity or community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise, their business, provided they're fully dedicated to making it successful for all the members of their community, especially for those who are most marginalized in each of their local communities. It will not be entirely on their shoulders alone, barring unforeseen circumstances, like the insurance industry and lawyers like to call it acts of God, but rather such failure could also be partly, at least, put on the shoulders of the community INAB collaborative members for not having lived up to their obligations to support and empower the local community, female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who would be building, operating, maintaining, and delivering all the various community programs, events, interventions, goods, and services that are intended to be delivered in the context of the local community garden humanitarian enterprise. So I'm suggesting as well that every community unity garden humanitarian enterprise should probably be established as a cooperative enterprise or business, with the idea to set up the local community business as a co-op, so that the burden of running the business doesn't fall entirely on the shoulders of any single entrepreneur. But of course, the different business models can be tried in order to determine the models that actually might work best, rather than the very formalized cooperative enterprise structures that have been created. So the INAB collaboratives we're establishing at the local level, we're leveraging our unique process of community engagement. The engagement starts, of course, with the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremonies, followed by ongoing community engagement and interaction through the regularly scheduled events throughout the year. So we have the coordinated bubble fun festivals and the sports and the dancing and arts, done in collaboration with the local INAB collaborative members. We also have the CTP program for twinning the community activities and the community organized tree plantings, and the local regenerative and public community infrastructure development projects and events. There's also the Tea Diplomacy Initiative I mentioned, the virtual community conversations about topics of peace, regeneration, reconciliation, and forgiveness, along with the Dream Boards Initiative, done in collaboration with C4 group members and others. We also have identification and engagement with the local talent, artists, creative people in the Orange economy, for the purpose of promoting and showcasing their talent, especially as they promote this through their art, the globalization of the global goals, and the achievement of a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, especially during any one of our periodic sunlight spectacle and other edutainment events that may be done throughout the year. So along with the other programs and activities that we do in the context of the Climate Smart Gardens and Forests, the Climate Smart Kitchens, the Wheel of Life Farms, and the Spark Learning Centers, these Climate Smart Learning Centers delivered by the PodNet Co-op, which is a global organization. So I put this slide because the local INAB collaboratives are being expanded as well to try to include other critical partners, potentially including any local or international organization that may be focused on the training of these FFHEs in the various regenerative and climate smart business and infrastructure solutions, along with an emergency management umbrella organization like BEMA International, the Black Emergency Managers Association, which would help bring together first responders like police, firefighters, paramedics from the local community in order to prepare the local entrepreneurs and enterprises, potentially position their businesses as hubs for taking action during emergencies or significant incidents that may happen in the community. I have also included a placeholder for the virtual cultural office, exchange office of the UnityNet African diaspora, which would be established for the purpose of mutually supporting each of our local communities, including the FFHE and the rest of the local INAB collaboratives and the members, wherever it is that each might live. Again, in the chat, you'll find information about UnityNet PPA. You'd like to mention the Tea Diplomacy Initiative. We have done 3, starting with the Week of Solidarity of the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination. March 21st to 27th. So the first one, March 21st, on the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which was also World Poetry Day and the International Day of Forests. So this first tea diplomacy event included having conversations related to methods and processes of enabling and implementing solidarity with the peoples struggling against racism and racial discrimination, as well discussing some of the poets and poetry that have influenced local cultures in the respective communities wherever participants are living, along with discussing the importance of establishing productive forests as biodiverse 3D polyculture food forests established as Unity Forests, Unity Gardens in all of these local communities and managed in partnership with local Indigenous peoples at all levels of government and in every local community and country as an essential part of this process of practical reconciliation with all of the Indigenous peoples of the world, one country, one community, and one watershed at a time. I used to play a poem that was played during the first tea diplomacy event. For the purpose of making my presentation a bit shorter, I'm not going to play it today, but just so everyone knows, the poem is about 2.5 minutes long, was read by the poet Jack Black God from a squatter camp or VVC called Diepsloot in which is north of Johannesburg, South Africa. You'll be able to hear it during any and all of our subsequent tea diplomacy and other events that we do. You can still find information about these events that we did by going to the links in the chat as well. So we have now completed our first 3 tea diplomacy events. As I stated, during these tea diplomacy events, we did ask the leaders of the high-level decision makers to sit down virtually, have a cup of tea with some of our UnityNet members working in the grassroots level who are living in and doing work in these marginalized communities around the world. So the conversations we asked our participants to discuss during these moderated virtual casual conversations between these sustainable development decision makers and professionals and the grassroots members doing some of the on the ground work in the local communities of the Global Unity Network were related to those 3 themes that I mentioned in the previous slide. But I do want to mention the 3 events were co-hosted by UnityNet International, building the network on behalf of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists, along with the Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development and Global Peace Let's Talk. Again, to save time, I usually do play a song rather than playing the music of Luvia M, which is a song called Thulan Lizio. I'll put the translated lyrics of the song to the chat. So the song is about 4.5 minutes long. It is our new theme song for the Global Tea Diplomacy Initiative. We'll also play it during other future special events, along with that poem by Jack Black God. I will not be playing these media files during the IGU Summit events for the purpose of saving some time. So again, in the chat, you'll find the lyrics to that song. So rather than listing all of our partners during the tea diplomacy event, I show their logos for now. You can go to the original tea diplomacy Eventbrite pages, find more about them, going to the links in the chat as well. I want to mention a few key partners, including Andrew Networks, the Energen Global Cooperation Turtle Island, Drada and Markham, the Indigenous Global Unity Network, Carbon Shot Earth, Tots and Kids South Africa, Jafoa Uganda, and UnityNet International, along with the organizations that continue to support this IGU Summit event, including 5 Points Youth Foundation, Edford Foundation, Future Lift Foundation, and Cycle of Success. Again, in the chat, you will find many of these links to all of these organizations as well. Give me a second to put these in the chat so people have access to this, to the links for our partners. We do want to do all 3 tea diplomacy events every year, including on May 21st, which is International Tea Day, and the World Day of for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, which celebrates the richness of the world's cultures and the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development, as well that day being important for the bringing together people. As well, June 18th, Sustainable Gastronomy Day, where we partnered with a number of other UnityNet chapters and nodes, as well as outside organizations like the Plant-Based Climate Smart Food Network, the South Markham Food Security Network, and the Virtual Urban Food and Farming Network. Of course, others locally in all of the communities of the Global Unity Network as well. So again, in the chat, you'll find more information about all of these different events and organizations that we like to partner with each year as we move forward and undertake our different events. So the second and third tea diplomacy events were also done. It doesn't mean we're finished our yearly events. We're also looking to develop more partnerships for our future events. If you want to promote your local civil society organization, your NGO, or your humanitarian enterprise, don't hesitate to contact me or the team member of either UnityNet International or the African Diaspora Continental Network. We can also promote the work that you're doing, your organization, to localize the global goals in your local community. And chat is some information about the tea diplomacy events. I'd also like to mention as well, again, the collaborative events that we're doing in 2022 are related to the activities of UnityNet, which I'd like to remind everyone includes the Unity Gardens Network and the Unity Learning Networks, along with the Unity Eco Village Network and the Unity Biodiversity Networks, along with many other critical networks. The events included the first globally coordinated Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation Showcase project for global cooperation, which was delivered locally in multiple local communities around the world by the members of the Global Unity Network on World Environment Day at the beginning of the month on Sunday, June 5th, 2022. So here in Canada, this was done in the city of Mississauga at 2 different locations, a total of 11 trees. The process of planting the trees of peace and reconciliation during those ceremonies allowed us to begin this process of establishing the global network of local INAB collaborators. So these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaborators that will lead the way at the local level everywhere around the world to undertaking the various globally coordinated events, programs, and regenerative infrastructure development and productive community-based businesses that we plan to undertake during the rest of the year and all subsequent years as well. So again, in the chat, you'll find some links to some of our other professional networks. I wanted to mention as well the launch event for the Abraham Project is intended to be followed by the globally coordinated community bubble fun festivals, designed to allow youth and families to have fun while they learn about the miraculous properties of bubbles. And especially, they'll learn about how to use the bubbles as the potential, which have the potential to allow humanity to more easily adapt, perhaps even to thrive in a warming and changing global climate, especially in those areas of the world where the impacts of global warming and climate change will be felt the most severely, which includes here in Canada, especially in the north, as well as in mountainous areas, and in many places like sub-Saharan Africa and South and Southeast Asia, and many more places around the world that are being most severely affected and impacted by the rapidly changing climate. So I wanted to remind people on this call, the dates for the globally coordinated community bubble fun festivals are intended to be this month, August 9th, being the first, the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, also the International Day of Solidarity with the Struggles of Women in South Africa and Namibia, or National Women's Day, and August 19th being the last day, World Humanitarian Day, with the one day between being important as well. August 12th, International Youth Day, which again opens it up to having a local global fun festival on any date between August 9th and 19th, which is an 11-day window. So for the chat, we'll find any links that are relevant to this discussion about the community bubble fun festivals. Other key events that we do want to do are Ubuntu Summit on October 4th, Global Cooperation Day. We did it last year. The day is also the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi and the Blessing of the Animals Day, which are both celebrated by the Catholic faith communities. Again, in the chat, you'll find a link to last year's event that we did, which will be repeated. So one of our most important events is this globally coordinated Climate Smart Youth Forum event. The event is intended to allow youth and families from around the world to learn about and discuss the various regenerative climate smart agriculture and food growing solutions that support achieving zero hunger, as well as climate action, so SDG 2 and SDG 13, and local circular regenerative economies that leave no one behind. So the people attending these hybrid events would learn about the Climate Smart Food Program and all the various components of the ad hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of the global goals, along with the smart infrastructure, including the hands-on Unity Gardens and virtual Interchange for Peace, VCN, where they're merging the two solutions allows us to create these community INAB collaboratives, along with the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are running the Unity Gardens as local cooperative enterprises, where they would gain access to all of the learning programs, the information, the education, the training, all the related support programs, the financial support systems as well. Those that have been promoting through this global Unity network. These are empowerment programs, also allowing us and all the local community members and families to implement the local regenerative climate smart humanitarian infrastructure and the enterprise solutions in the context of their neighborhoods, their own communities, wherever they might live in the world. The last thing I wanted to mention from this slide is that we had decided last year the primary host for the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, a 2022 event, would be Yele International, which is in Nigeria. We hope we'll be working in partnership as well with UnityNet Nigeria, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora as well, so that many of the rest of the members of the Global Unity Network who also wish to contribute to the success of the event do during the Globally Coordinated Community or Climate Smart Youth Forum Week will be happening. So Yele International has their two main arms, as you see on the screen. The first is their youth education initiative, the second being their leadership initiative. So Yele International is managed by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Monday Amadou from UnityNet Nigeria. Again, you'll see in the chat any of the relevant links to the networks that support this event. So an optional event that we would like to do every year is the globally coordinated community tree planting events. These events are designed to establish 3D polyculture food forests in local communities around the world. This year, we can't be sure if we'll be moving ahead anywhere in the world, especially since we're still in the process of establishing the local INAB collaboratives and identifying the local FFHE teams in all of our local communities. However, these events are intended to be done in all the local communities where the local UnityNet INAP collaboratives have been firmly established, where the members of the local community partnerships wish to establish these Unity Forest, Unity Gardens, which are designed for delivering the various global Unity learning programs, such as the Tukitani EV Women Empowerment Program, or the Global Unity 4K Club Humanitarian Entrepreneurship Learning Programs for educating young people especially, and their families and other community members about the various ways of achieving climate and food and nutrition security goals. So SDG 13, climate action, SDG 2, zero hunger at minimum in all of our local communities. Of course, we also want local community members to start implementing the other global goals through their localized community enterprises, because this is what humanitarian entrepreneurship is all about. It's about taking local action in the local communities for achieving the global goals. So whether it's biodiversity action, SDG 15, which is the life on land goals, or the gender equality action, or the clean water action, or the clean energy, or the peace or no poverty actions, with the local community members coming together through the INAP collaboratives to empower the local compassionate, collaborative, and passionate community humanitarian entrepreneurs who would be dedicated to leaving no one behind in their local communities. I wanted to remind everyone, I mentioned the globally coordinated community Unity Forest, Unity Garden tree planting events would be done and could be done during the Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which would likely also include a number of different hybrid, in-person, virtual conference events, including the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum event on World Food Day, October 16th, which this year falls on a Sunday. So again, in the chat, there's some links to some relevant networks. I will also be doing an IGU Summit special event on the subject of Indigenous unity. This will be done together with our friends in the US, including California, and in Africa, where all of our members globally in all the country chapters and nodes of the Global Unity Network will also be invited to participate in this important conversation. So the special day has been set aside as Thursday, October 6th, which is 6 days before Wednesday, October 12th, 30 years after Berkeley, California established Indigenous Peoples Day, and 2 days after Global Cooperation Day, which is Tuesday, October 4th, when we'll be doing the Ubuntu Summit event and launching our Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which concludes on Sunday, October 16th, which is World Food Day. So the special guest on that day, at least one of them will be Mitch Gold from the UN Office of the Future, who will be telling us stories about his journey of support of the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, as well as the white buffalo prophecy, and his process of developing the Indigenous Peoples Agenda at the United Nations. And I noted in the past few weeks of the IGU Summit, I'd like to invite the city of Berkeley, as well as their local institutions, including the university and all corporations in California and the USA and across Canada and worldwide through the UN Global Compact local networks, and also to have them plant a tree of peace and reconciliation and raise the Indigenous unity flag in solidarity with all of the other communities around the world, including the local communities here in Canada, who will be encouraging to do the same. So we do plan to plant the trees, raise the flags, establish local INAP collaboratives, empower our local FFHE in support of the globalization of the global goals and the practical implementation of the local solutions for achieving a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind as we move forward toward this next iteration of global goals, the Regenerative Development Goals, 2030 to 2045. So the decision to have a different Indigenous Peoples Day, aside from the National Indigenous History Month here in Canada, is coming back to the old divide and conquer mentality and the colonial mindset, and continued deliberate actions to divide people into us and them. So this is actually the same mentality that we're trying to overcome within the communities of the global Unity Network. So a page that I mentioned the last few weeks that I want to start activating locally here in Markham, here in Thornhill, with the local people and all our relations who live in the Don and Rouge River watersheds where I live, ahead of the Markham Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting and the Indigenous Unity flag raising ceremonies in 2023, is the Drawdown Markham Youth Task Force, which will be used to help establish the local community for global action on achieving a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. And by establishing these local Markham Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaborative, the INABC. So again, in the chat, we'll see the local network that we had established quite a while ago. So I will share as well a link for people to see Indigenous Peoples Day, October 10th, as well as the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples 2022. So there's a link as well to our original Global Cooperation Day event that we did in 2019, which was the beginning of all of this things that we are doing here, as well as a link to the Ubuntu Summit and the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, a discussion group. I will be creating a complimentary Eventbrite page for the events that we wish to do during that week as well. So I wanted to mention finally the Unity Gardens of UnityNet encourage co-learning and intercultural collaboration, what's called two-eyed seeing. So the Unity Gardens are places where children are intended to be taught that no one being is greater than the next, that we are part and parcel of the whole, that we are all equal, that each one of us has a responsibility to the balance of the system and an understanding that all of the world's species, including all of our bio and eco kin, have contributions to make to the fabric of life on this planet. I'd like everyone to understand the two-eyed seeing Etuapmunk guiding principle for intercultural collaboration, which can be read at the various websites that are posted in the chat as well. I'd like to mention the Honey Project. Again, the UnityNet International Honey Project proposal was made for the Rusley Poverty Alleviation Pilot Projects, which are done every Wednesday, managed by the Rusley Institute in collaboration with UnityNet International and the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. The Unity Honey Project, designed to demonstrate the production of certified climate smart honey produced from wildflowers grown on restored landscapes, such as former mine sites or other industrial or currently degraded lands, in order to produce abundance and revenue from what was once wasteland. So the Unity Honey Project is a bee honey harvesting project intended to support the Science for Peace CSF program food certification system and the demonstration of PAGI payments paid to the producers of certified products that are produced by female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, especially in support of and in partnership with local Indigenous communities. So the Unity Honey Project was designed as something that could potentially be universally applied in a number of different jurisdictions, no matter what country or continent or local community it is. So the project ties into the Abraham Project process of integrating the CTP program for twinning or thrinning or our local communities into the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board globalization process, starting with the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation and the undertaking of the local community ceremonies that help to bring together all of these 7 local partners that establish the local INAB collaboratives in each local community. And from that moment forward, from their creation, will be dedicated to empowering the local FFHEs who work closely together with the members of the INAB collaboratives to develop their local compassionate, collaborative, and regenerative community climate smart cooperative enterprise. So again, in the chat is some link to the Honey Project. Before we sign off, invite our guest speaker to join us. I do want to share with everyone today the message for our education system from a gentleman by the name of Radhanath Swami. Playing the video, about 5 minutes, contains important messages about things like compassion, kindness, integrity, inner beauty and happiness, character and values, leadership and success, along with love, hope, and a true understanding of the meaning of success. So I will play the video now.
What is happening to our system of education? It is said 50 years ago, some of the major problems in schools included sticking chewing gum under tables, talking in class, and missing deadlines. Today, our schools face gun and knife crime, bullying, and dangerous levels of stress, drug abuse, depression, and suicide. To effectively address the serious challenges that our children face, we need to consider not only the problems with individual students, but the very system of education that they are subjected to. Academic intelligence may make a child successful in the world, but compassion will make them useful. When we teach values alongside academics, we will find that children will be much happier, more successful, and will develop into great leaders that will change the future of our world. The word education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means to lead out or to bring out from within. Education is actually about bringing out the unique individual potential of every child, teaching them how to approach the hurdles, shortcomings, and setbacks of life, while empowering them to be vehicles of love and hope for the world. It is said, if you lose your wealth, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. But if you lose your character, you lose everything. Without stressing these truths, the opposite will be understood by default. That is, if you lose your character, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. If you lose your wealth, you lose everything. It should be a top priority of our education system to ensure that our children get this right. Imagine an education system where children are taught that the only time we should look down on someone is if we can help them up. Imagine a system where children are taught to judge beauty by what is within people's heart, not by their physical appearance. Imagine a system where character is given as much importance as competence, where children are taught that helping 1 billion people is even more valuable than being a billionaire, where as well as learning to raise their standard of living, they are also taught to increase their standard of giving, where children are taught to measure their success by how happy and fulfilled they are, and not how many letters they have after their names. An education system where developing intelligence goes hand in hand with developing compassion. Imagine if, as well as learning the history of our world, they are given the skills to to change the future of it. Imagine if, as well as learning to navigate the world, they learn how to navigate their own minds. This is not an imagination. It is possible if we genuinely begin to value kindness over competence, character over success, and integrity above money. And in this way, change the system in which our children grow and learn.
So I wanted to mention again that Dr. Amadou, Monday Amadou from UnityNet Nigeria, reminded us as well the process of change is like a revival. Together we can indeed make the world a better place, and that positive change begins with you and I. Everyone can start something, even if it's small, and we will come to be able to create the kind of change the world needs, but only if each one helps one as the world goes round. It can be made free from social problems. So we in the Global Unity Network, through UnityNet International and UNAD, are promoting humanitarian entrepreneurship and a compassionate and collaborative regenerative economy that encompasses the concept of collaborative entrepreneurship, collaborative economy, and a collaborative business. Cooperatives are such types of businesses, and the empowerment networks that we're building in all our local communities through the ceremonies of the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation and the raising of the Indigenous unity flags are intended to support and empower such types of local community cooperative enterprises and the FFAG who wish to establish and to operate them. So we believe that a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy can achieve far more positive outcomes for far more people, far faster than a purely competitive economy as it exists today. Of course, to keep prices down, there still needs to be some competition within sectors, especially for those who are providing the same or similar goods and services in the same community. But we do encourage co-opetition rather than pure competition, which has a winner-takes-all mentality. So we want our members to support each other's mutual success so that no one is left behind, which we call Ubuntu in business. Again, you can find the link to the Energy Global Cooperation Turtle Island CSO. The Global Unity Network is an empowerment network. We are a globally connected community empowerment network of local networks. Uni and UNAD are here to help all of our members. We want the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises to thrive. This means the Unity Gardens and our female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who would secure and develop these developments should be supported by all the members and organizations who are part of the local INAP collaboratives, along with the rest of the people and organizations that are members of the Global Unity Network. We also want people who are members of UnityNet to get to the table, show up to the meetings where decisions are being made. So this is also what UnityNet is about. It's being created so that we can have representation at every one of these meetings where decisions are being made, especially every time there is a discussion about funding. So we'll be recognized for our participation. It is what members like Prophet Cox and Andrew like to say, if you are not at the table, you're on the menu. So we need to assist those who are most marginalized in our network, get them trained and empowered, so they can also go with us to all of these meetings and discussions about funding. This means the youth, the elders, the rural, the disabled, the homeless, and the refugees, because they should also be sitting and sharing their voice using the language of holistic, collaborative, regenerative development, localized to empower all of the people in their own local communities, especially on behalf of all the others who have been marginalized. So our network allows us to disseminate the information, the invitations, and all of the various events so that everyone in our network has the opportunity to participate and find a seat at those tables. But they must be empowered, they must have the confidence, and they must choose to sit down at those meetings. So in connection with the Global Unity Network and our objectives, these are the values we want to continuously promote alongside the humanitarian entrepreneurship. It's also what we call life value peace education. I wanted to mention the Global Unity Network and our members support people, our humanitarian entrepreneur members and their communities, and of course all our relations, not the corporations or the faceless entities that lack empathetic souls. So I noted recently at one of our UnityNet discussions that I'm certain that we will make it happen because the next generation of children is counting on us. We cannot deny them a fulfilling life of plenty, especially if we use up the earth and all for ourselves, for this people, or for this generation, instead of thinking the next generation in the future. I can't believe that humans could really be that selfish. I do want to mention as well Energym University Sustainable Planet platform. It is still under development, but it is intended also to teach these values alongside academic skills and collaboration, intended to empower young people to change the world through love and compassion, practical skills in regenerative design. However, through the Global Unity Network, we are building, it's being done on the backbone of We Energym Global Cooperation Turtle Island and the original partnership between We the World, Energym University, and Global Cooperation Day. So what we're doing in Energym University, in particular, which will be taught through the learning programs delivered through the Global Unity Network and the Unity Gardens, are the concepts of regenerative design as a professional discipline. This means applied life value peace education, which is above all a compassionate philosophy and matters as much, if not more, than the technical skills, because this is about changing the very system of education, because we know that when we teach values alongside academics, we do find that children and adults as well will be much happier, more successful, will develop into those great leaders that will change the future of the world for the better. If we could just find a way to bring out the unique talents and potential of each and every child while empowering them to become vehicles of love, because we understand that love will always conquer hate. So again, in the chat, you will find some information about some of our networks and a song that I think people would like to see. Where is our primary tool? It is the partnerships. Partnerships for the goals we set for ourselves as humans. The lessons we learn through the delivery of the embedded understanding of Ubuntu shown to our youth by our own example. So we are delivering the learning by using the tools of partnership, mentorship, humanitarian entrepreneurship. We therefore a global collaboration of people who are dedicated to deploying the local solutions for achieving a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So we have this big mandate for a better future. We're mentoring the next generation of young leaders in these solutions. Before we end today, I do want to mention one of the reasons for doing all of this work, having our events, building our networks, is so that we can be assembling all of the experts who are skilled at implementing local solutions for achieving a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So the UnityNet International and UNAD understand that it is only through partnerships, SDG 17 being that will allow us to succeed by also doing our work in the spirit of Ubuntu. We have less than 7.5 years until 2030 and the end of the so-called SDGs. All indications are that we are getting in a worse situation globally, unfortunately, where the start of 2015, when the SDGs began, now we have, it seems, worse food security globally, not getting better, carbon emissions still rising, global warming, climate change not going away, inflation now happening around the world, There's also wars and droughts, soil degradation is continuing, loss of habitats and biodiversity ongoing. But these are all challenges I think we can overcome. But we do need to come together with all of the people on Earth who care about our children's future and the next generations of humanity, creating this network, this large network that will support the regenerative development experts who are skilled at implementing these local solutions for achieving the productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So this is the ultimate purpose of UnityNet, our global unity network, a network of people and organizations supporting this process of globalization of the global goals. So again, in the chat, you will find some of the links to our networks. So I do want to ask anyone who's on the call today, put their contact information into the chat so that others on the call have your contact info, especially if you're new to the IGU Summit events and the Global Unity Network. Please include your name, your organization, your contact information, your email, your WhatsApp, social media, websites, etc. I want to recognize our guests today. This is the last slide of our presentation. We don't have a guest speaker this week, unfortunately, but I did set out a quick agenda for follow-up discussions. We would like to discuss, especially have a community conversation about the three things, I think 3 events that are important coming up. We're not sure if we can do this year the Global Fun Festivals for August, because August 9th is just around the corner, but we will certainly want to start planning for 2023. As well, there is the Climate Smart Youth Forum in October, which I believe we can do something this year, certainly. And then there is COP27 in Egypt, which is coming up in November. So these are coming up, the 3 events I think that we should focus on for the rest of the year. Critical need to begin planning for 2023 as well. So that ends this part of the discussion. I can stop the presentation and open up the floor for discussions around the upcoming events. So I'm just looking right now at the people who are on the call. And I'm seeing a new name here as well. Celan Meza is on the call with us today. I'm hoping that perhaps to break the ice, we can have somebody from who's been on these calls before. Perhaps Stephanie Schuller could introduce herself first, and then we can move across and have Celan Meza introduce themselves as well. Is it possible to do so? Oh, there she is.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Lloyd, for your excellent presentation and your excellent commitment to uplifting the knowledges of our ancestors, of all of our ancestors in all corners of the world, particularly regarding climate action and food security, so that everybody has enough. I'm a proud director and founder of UnityNet International, along with Lloyd and Mark and Carlos from UNAD and Angela Argentina from Canada as well. And my background is in education and holistic well-being. And I believe in really encouraging children and youth and community to be together outside as stewards of the earth, outside and participating and learning how to be not only sustainable, but regenerative regarding our food systems. And as a founder and director of Maui Aloha Project, the Global Eco Village Initiative, really envisioning in urban and rural centers and all parts of the world communities that work together to highlight from a ability-based model rather than a disability-based model, the way we've been schooled, and organized in our society an ability-based model for design of regenerative communities that really celebrate the multiliteracies of all people and focus on values such as happiness and well-being and community relations. I have a background in play and finishing my doctorate in education right now. And I really believe that after COVID, especially, we need to focus on our social regeneration. I'm concerned about the global mental health crisis and children rampant with anxiety, depression, and thoughts of suicide. And I believe that we need to do anything and everything and push all the boundaries that traditionally have bound us to do whatever it takes to bring that level of mental health crisis down and eradicate that. It's for the school systems, and I believe also needing to be in community, in play, needing to be outdoors as stewards of the earth, and the medicine is there. And I'm very proud to be part of all of these wonderful people and wonderful initiatives. And we're getting ready to start really showcasing the efforts of individual micro communities and for them to be able to showcase them and share them around the world. So thank you so much, Lloyd, and everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was always enlightening to know your own connections to the networks that you're creating. As I always say, this is a network of networks. We have our own each have our own networks that we can leverage to bring this message to of hope, I think, for the future, because I think there is a lack of hope in the world that is emerging too often through our mainstream media and those social networks that are very divisive again of our communities. So again, I'd like to ask if Selan Meza might be able to introduce themselves to us. It's somebody, a new name that we have not heard before. Yes. If you are able to do so.
Hey, my name is Selan. I joined a little late. Forget exactly how I found this network, but I've been receiving a lot of notifications in the WhatsApp group, and I decided to join this time. But I run a social media platform called Life Thoughts Shared. I currently have 38,000 followers on the platform, and it has shifted a lot, the messaging, but right now I want to spread a message of creating abundance now in our communities. I'm starting a forum called Abundance Now that is aiming to be an aggregator of co-creators. It's supposed to be a common place for solutions built upon wholeness, and I want to bring generous and activated people committed to cultivating and sharing the abundance around us. It's kind of similar to, I think, what's being done here. Want to connect nonprofits, social entrepreneurs, NGOs, and content creators to bring awareness and to share abundance around us and to create it. I want to address food deserts and by creating food oasis, address trauma and unhappiness through community events, which will heal and provide purpose to all. A big thing that I want to do is, nourishing stomachs, healing hearts, and co-creating community. Really wanting to build a resilient, regenerative communities here in Cleveland, where I'm at currently, and then coming up with protocols from that experience to help start other initiatives in other cities.
Mm-hmm. So this is excellent. I guess Cleveland is sort of a Midwest community. We seem to have right now communities in the East and the West. So in sort of New York and and California. And so it'd be good to if we can have a follow-up conversation about potentially establishing local UnityNet. Actually, we call it a regional chapter, as we do here in the Greater Toronto area. Like, although I'm in Markham and I'm going to focus on my own local community here in Thornhill, which is a subset of Markham, we have the Greater Unity Network, GTA, which is Greater Toronto area, which is a number of municipalities. So City of Toronto, City of Markham, City of Vaughan, City of Mississauga, these are all municipalities within the region that share watersheds. So there's a landform here called a moraine, the Oak Ridges Moraine, and everything south of that moraine, all the rivers flow into Lake Ontario. And all of these municipalities are essentially part of those same watersheds. So the rivers where I am flow down into Toronto. So even though they are different municipalities, from the point of view of a political jurisdiction, they are actually the same watershed. So that we think in terms of watersheds as we build these networks as well. So I'm hoping that others might be able to perhaps talk a little bit about any plans that they may want to do in their own local communities as well, as we build this network. As we say, we want to build a network of INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, based on the template of the 7 sector partnerships. And so I'm hoping that we'll also hear, I think there's 2 people from South Africa here, Juliet, as well as Heinrich. Perhaps you should and could introduce yourself, Juliet, as well, to let us know.
Thank you, and good evening. Good evening to everyone. My name is Juliet Miabo. I'm based in South Africa. I do work in various communities of South Africa, specifically the townships, that is where the marginalized and the most disadvantaged people reside. And unfortunately, currently, it's a very volatile environment. But other than that, we continue to try and find and do good in spite of what is happening around us. I am, my background is social and political sciences. I have a degree in that, and from the University of Cape Town. And I've worked in the corporate sector, working in the areas of fashion, but my passion has always been with people. So given an opportunity to leave the corporate, I then focused on working on community-based organizations, on networks, NGOs and NPOs, because I believe that is where the bottom line that matters the most is, that is with people, especially for a country like South Africa that has just only received freedom or democracy only in the past less than 30 years ago. I'm the head of the Soweto CSI Council, which aims to encourage organizations, companies, multinationals, and everyone to contribute towards the goodness of any community. I also work with children, undertods and kids, children from the ages of 2 up to the ages of 18. And there we believe in the formative years that inform the type of a young person or an adult that you find in the community. It is formed at a very young age. And I work under JAMA Status Youth Development Program. There we focus on the principles of sport as a way of instilling discipline and also dedication and a different way of life and thinking amongst young people. As you know, that there's always a conflict between what needs to be done and what young people want to do. So using the principles of sports, we're able to get somewhere, but we also identify opportunities for job creation and other things. I'm part of the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. I also participate on various programs and groups along with the people on this group to do exactly what our guest has just spoke about now, to contribute towards the wholeness of people, total holistic wellness. And one of the things that we discussed, I think it was last month, Professor Lloyd, was how as much as we teach people to fish, we need to do that while we give them a loaf of bread. And I'm glad that our guest is also touching on that principle of teaching, skilling, psychosocial support while you actually think and contribute towards people's food security as well. In a nutshell, that is me. Yeah, thank you so much again and welcome.
Thank you again, Juliet. I'm hoping that Chimeze Atama will be able to introduce herself as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad that I was able to join the call. I initially thought it would not be possible for me to join because my mother has been sick and we have been in the hospital. But we got discharged this morning and we are back home. So I was able to join. So thank you. I am Chimeze Atama from Nigeria. I'm based in University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where my organization is also located. And basically, we work around gender-based violence, trying to end all forms of violence against women, particularly sexual violence, economic violence, and the rest of them. Because when you talk about gender-based violence, it is broad. It involves a lot of things, including it's even related to climate anxiety, climate injustice, and the rest of them. So basically, we try to engage women and girls to reduce gender-based violence, to promote gender justice in environmental sustainability, and also to see how we can help them to come up economically, because majority of the time you find that women are being violated, discriminated against because of because of the lack of economic power, which they usually, especially from this part of the world, that's what majority of them suffer, and that's what makes them vulnerable to abuse, all manner of abuse, and that's what my organization is focusing on. So our mission is to, end all forms of violence, to promote gender equality, and end all forms of violence against women and girls. So we work around menstrual hygiene, sexual and reproductive health, especially focusing on menstrual hygiene management, which we found as a serious issue in rural communities. We also work to promote gender justice, like I said, in environmental sustainability. So we engage women and girls in vegetable farming, and we are also trying to engage women in other type of farming because of, we are facing a lot of food insecurity in Nigeria, especially in the Southeast, because majority of the food we eat in Nigeria comes from the North. And because of insurgencies, because of conflicts here and there, is now making it almost like impossible for people to transport food from the North to the South and the East. So we are trying to encourage, local farmers to, especially women, to be farming some of the vegetables that ab initio we thought we cannot farm in the East. So that's what we are doing. And because of the high level of gender-based violence, we are also working seriously to see how we can end that. And recently, my organization was one of the few in Africa that, we are empowered by ESD Global. ESD Global is an organization that is based in US. I think the founder is from Israel, and they have been going around to teach, some life-changing skills that people can leverage on to avert gender-based violence, especially sexual harassment and abuse. So my organization was one of the few that we selected, and we just concluded the training in Rwanda. And currently we are working to see how we can step down the training, and we have planned a boot camp program for teenage and adolescent girls, where we are trying to teach them some of the skills we have learned from Rwanda, and also introduce them to skills that will help them to reduce the economic violence they are facing. So I'm happy to be in the group. My organization is based in University of Nigeria, as I said earlier on, and we are disposed to any form of partnership, any form of discussions that will help to impact people in rural community. I'm sorry I won't be able to give more details because, like I said, we just came back from the hospital and it has been very tedious for me the whole day. I appreciate everybody in the group. I appreciate the effort, the work that all of us are doing to impact humanity. And I keep praying that we will impact, no matter how little, we'll be able to impact, and people will be happy that they have people like us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Chisema is, or Chimez, I need to know how to pronounce your name, sorry. But Dr. Atama was intended to be our guest speaker. She had wrote to me that she would be unable to. I'm very glad to hear that the issue that she had with her family is now hopefully resolved for the most part, and she's back at home with her family. So we will rebook her presentation for another week moving forward as we continue to have these Thursday events. I'd like to know if there are any other people on the call that would like to introduce themselves as well. I see Heinrich and Patrick.
Yes, Lloyd, good evening, everybody. My name is Heinrich van der Merwe. I'm a colleague of Juliet in South Africa, and I'm a feminist that believes that women in Africa is the cement that keeps everything together, and that we need to have programs to support them. I believe that the fundamental issue in most part of Africa is food security. Although Africa is endowed with the resources to grow food, it is not occurring as planned. We are not creating the wealth and welfare that people require. And I think that the UnityNet model, where we are creating these hubs of excellence, is the model that we need to pursue vigorously, so that we can start stringing these hubs together in some sort of hub and spoke model to utilize expensive infrastructure efficiently to ensure that we can feed and bigger parts of the continent, and that the logistics around the extra food that we produce can go to the places of need. And our colleague have mentioned, Ultima have mentioned, skills is one of the issues that we need to give a lot of attention to. Those extension skills, those supportive skills to assist these hubs to produce the necessary food and fiber, preserve the food and fiber, and look at advanced, smart, sustainable technology to produce that. My background is agricultural engineering, and I've got a passion for the small-scale farmer. I believe the small-scale farmer with the right tools, with the right operating procedures, can be responsible to eradicate poverty and hunger in Africa. Our responsibility is to identify those catalytic projects that can ignite this whole principle of the hubs and spokes model. You know, if and in the world, if we look at some of the churches in the old days, they followed the same principle, and they've built one of the biggest businesses ever. And it's not that they've provide people with millions of rands. Each and every community have worked hard to use the resources that's available to the best of their ability. But, you know, it's the old thing that I'm always saying, is you must water that plant every day. You must think of those principles every day. You must apply those principles every day without tiring. I think Lloyd is a good example for us to sit here every Thursday and, you know, water that plant. Tell us, you know, what is planned and how to do it. And you know, if people start listening, I think that the things that will start happening as we hope they should be happening. So a simple vision is to create a small-scale farming that will create the wealth and welfare that we require in Africa. To some extent, I believe even if Africa is so well endowed with high potential land, good rainfall, big rivers, big lakes, and all those type of things, that, you know, the welfare issue is probably the biggest. And if we listen to Juliet and her colleagues on what's going on, I must agree with it. But at the end of the day, all of us have skills, and my skill is on the engineering side, and I would like to apply it in this team to see how I can assist in a high-level setup of partnerships in the agriculture sector to ensure agricultural transformation, and to ensure that somehow we multiply these commodities, these food commodities, so that we can feed the whole nation, to contribute to end extreme poverty that we witness in this continent, to eliminate the hunger and malnutrition that is hampering our young people, and building to a point where these family units, these small-scale farmers, these small businesses become a net exporter of these agricultural commodities, and eventually move to the top of the key agricultural value chain. That's what we want to make sure that it's possible. You know, we want people to eat nutritional foods. At the moment, you know, the world are feeding the poor people, you know, with systems that is not creating the necessary nutrition or supplying the necessary nutrition that we are needing so urgently in these communities. So through extension, through skills, we want to get this economic transformation. And that is the type of things that I want to be part of. How do we deal at community level to eradicate these problems? How do we empower these people to help themselves? How do we add value? And yeah, we can talk the whole evening about those things, but this is the vision that I'm pursuing in UnityNet with my background as agricultural engineer, my background in industrial engineering, my background in energy, manufacturing and innovation. I want to be part of a team that's going to make a difference in transforming the small-scale farming sector in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Heinrich. Actually, I'm thinking right now that we have here as well in the Greater Toronto area is something called PodNet GTA. I think it might be useful if you were to also perhaps establish a PodNet node in South Africa in conjunction with the UnityNet South Africa. So you could also get yourself more familiarized with that as well. And I'm seeing Andrew has his hands up. Did you wish to say something, Andrew?
Oh, I apologize, Lloyd. That was a mistake. I had the phone in my pocket.
Okay.
So it wasn't me.
All right, no problem then.
Hi, everyone.
It was a little bit of an unusual thing to see your hand up there. Okay, so we have another person on the call here. Was Samuel? If you would like to introduce yourself. It's possible to unmute. Hello, Waswa.
Okay. Hello. You can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Waswa Samuel from Uganda, founder of Peace and Equality. I've liked the presentation of the previous speaker, Mr. Van Leer. His presentation has been very amazing, and the governments in Africa, it has failed to redeem people from poverty. And I think people may not need cash to start our business. If governments look at those who have managed to start up the business, they invest or they support them so that they can expand their businesses, so that if they expand their business, they can employ more people, and they can help in providing taxes which can develop infrastructures in the country, and the same infrastructures can be used to develop the area. But the challenge is
Samuel, you muted yourself, it seems. Samuel?
Hello?
Yeah, you had
Okay.
muted yourself probably by accident.
Okay. Oh, sorry for that. So my view is, as Peace, Justice and Equality Foundation, what we try to do, we go to the community, we sit with the community leaders and find out what really this community can produce. For example, if the community can on what you're producing. So we can to produce juice out of the pineapple so that they can add value instead of sending them in raw form at a cheaper price that I've sent. I said that Europe developed because of the problems that they had. For example, when to getting to their military officers, the Japanese and other enemies used to intercept their communication. So what did they decide? They decided to come up with a radio call. From radio call, then that is where we're having the development of funds. So what was the problem? How to communicate letters, email, which we are using right now. So that in time. What do I mean by saying this? In Africa, we need to look at our problems and see how can we solve these problems. What I think what made Africa to lag behind in terms of development. Most of the things that we used to get that silver plate. People could go to there was no need of housing. So, but when the population increased, people started to have pressure of clothing, housing, and now in Africa, people have decided to find ways of getting money. You find the youth starting and be able to access what they need, their basic needs. A way it can develop in a good way. And how can you do this? Mindset. We have failed to change the mindset. Very many funders in Europe, America, they give money to African countries, but because it is like a fund, someone does not value what has been given. It has not come out of his sweat, so it will not value that money. But if that person provides something, let's say we add the value on the coffee in Africa, then that coffee is sent to Europe, is sent to America, someone will value the money because invested in it, added value, and it is can expand his business, because the more you spend the business, the more you find ways of expanding it. But if someone gets the free money, that person won't value that money. Yeah, unfortunately, I went off for some time, like 30 minutes. But Mr. Andrew, you talked about education and peace education in schools, and as Peace, Justice, and Equality Foundation, have also looked at this, because the generation now is changing. The way kids are brought up, parents have failed to commit their responsibilities. There is a say which is normally said by people in Africa, and I don't know Europe how it is, but in Africa, especially in my country, someone leaves a kid to punish you. You find like child to see how you can bring out that child instead of finding out of solving the problem, the parent just say, the world will punish you. You have failed to listen to me, the world will punish you. And how the world punishes. The trend has changed. World punishes. You've talked about these peace clubs. We found that student times fails to bring out their problems to teachers, to head teachers, to administration. But when they are sitting with their colleagues, they tell them what they're facing, the challenges they're facing. So through Peace Club, students are able to come to discuss their problems as a challenge so that the administration do find ways of helping the student. I myself am a teacher by profession and I teach in high schools. But sometimes I sit I get time, I sit with my students and ask them the challenges they face. One time I discovered that there is a child, a girl of 15 years, was clocking to 16 years, but this girl was staying alone in the house. The mother was working from very far. The daddy passed on. And I was so surprised to hear that this girl was staying alone in the house, and the mother could take weeks or months without returning home. The mother could just send the money to be used by this child. So, and why I got bothered? I could find this girl. I'm teaching, but she's not focusing. So I bothered to ask her why. But some days you are on and off, and when you're around, you don't concentrate. What could be the problem? So the girl was able to tell me the challenge, and this gives in schools. So that we can get to know the challenges students face and how can we solve the problem of strikes, because schools fail to listen to students and this end up causing strikes in schools. So I'll be glad to work with the network if I'm given the opportunity and see how we can move on with the peace clubs in schools and also the community, because I work as a liaison of Wachiso district in international cities of peace, which is an international body. And my purpose is to promote peace in the district of Wachiso. So I'll be so glad to work with the network and also get to know more about the network. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you.
Oh, thank you very much. I turned off my video to try to see if we could get a little bit better sound coming through. There was quite a bit of breakup in your voice, unfortunately. So we didn't I didn't hear 100% of it, but some of the last things you were talking about, certainly understanding that you are a teacher. I think if you are not yet a member of the learning network, you might want to actually perhaps even convene a discussion, especially with Stephanie, who's also on our call today. So she is the leader of the Unity Learning Network, and so one of the things as well that I want to do is engage with again locally community organization here with perhaps some aligned goals where we can have this engagement. This community organization was started, what was called the South Markham Food Security Network was actually started by a teacher in training. So they are, at the time we met, I'm couple of years back, they were trying to create this food forest in our local community to engage young people in food systems learning. And so I think it's very critical now at this point as well, as we work with our other partners like Juliet, who was on our call earlier. We now have what we call an initiative to move forward to connect all of these schools together at the local levels in each of our own local communities. So this sister schools program that we're just beginning to talk about, I think it could be something where, for instance, yourself, Samuel, and Stephanie, and many more of our members could have a focused conversation around how do we launch this sister schools program. And that's actually something I'd like to suggest as well as a follow-up from this discussion today that we have during this IGU Summit. There's also a email thread that's happening in parallel to this, to the discussions happening on the WhatsApp groups, and of course the discussions we have here on these Zoom calls. So it would be good, and I'd like to suggest to Stephanie in particular as well that we have this follow-up discussion around launching this sister schools program that's been suggested by Juliet as we move forward and try to connect all of our learning institutions, universities, colleges, high schools, public schools in every local community, so we can really move forward with actually implementing some of those things that were just talked about. Because as you note, Stephanie, I mean, your focus being food systems learning in outdoor spaces, and as well as hopefully in some of these controlled environment solutions where we can then deliver this learning 365 days a year, even here in Canada.
Well, absolutely. And it's imperative because, you know, we have this externally imposed curriculum, but it doesn't include practical tools for life, starting from the very beginning. And children grow up to become parents and community members and guardians of the people around them and in the places that they go to. And from the very young ages, everybody knows that what you teach a child in their childhood, they retain. The expressions like, you don't forget to ride a bike and whatnot. And for very young ages, aside from the fact of the science that we conclusively know is medicine for human beings to be a part of nature, we are a part of nature. It's not a separate thing, humans and nature. But for us to be immersed on a daily basis as in nature is medicine. And we know this for thousands of years, in particular from Japanese background and what we now call forest bathing, that it actually changes our blood pressure, our nervous system, our hormonal endocrine systems and whatnot. But aside from that, we must start teaching at young ages so that it's automatic, so that children know from seed to table the processes that are necessary for them to participate as children and as community members and as heads of their households eventually. So I'm looking forward to not having things kept in separate silos, but merging our wisdom so that education and the very basics, such as food, are not separate, that they're one and the same, and that children start to learn en masse globally for ourselves and to uplift each other in our communities. So look forward to communicating.
So what I would like to suggest as well is that we have a follow-up conversation specifically looking at York Region, since we are both here in York Region. There's York Region District School Board, Catholic District School Board. There's all of the different learning centers that we have, a university here. We have colleges. So I think there's a possibility to at least start those conversations, and it can be done potentially through the universities, like University of Toronto, York University, and others, as well as the colleges. where they can potentially take a leadership role in encouraging some of the other public schools to begin negotiating on this system of education that we'd like to eventually deliver to all young people. Dr. Atama, would you like to say, I see your hand is up, if you'd like to say a few additional words.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Stephanie, and thanks everyone for the amazing conversation. I wish to say that I'm glad to hear that we have plans to work with young people, especially the education sector, in driving some of the ideas we have been raising here at home. And I have, as I have already stated, I am a lecturer at University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where my organization is also located. So we are very open to any form of conversation and partnership, as I've mentioned before. However, why I'm raising my hand is just to let us know about a program we are planning, which I've mentioned before. We are planning a boot camp program for teenage and adolescent girls around the issues of gender-based violence, particularly sexual harassment and abuse. We also intend to incorporate sexual and reproductive health education because the presence of university in the area is affecting a whole lot of young people in terms of sexual and reproductive health. And because of ignorance and the lack of education, the host communities are also not really finding it easy with menstrual hygiene management. I was able to know that because we have been working around that. And having looked at the whole situation, we now thought that having a kind of annual boot camp where we'll be bringing these teenagers together to teach them some of these life-changing skills will be very important. And so we have planned for one to happen this August. Because August is usually a period of vacation in Nigeria. Most schools closed this last Friday and they will be on holiday till middle of September. So we are targeting that period so that these teenage girls will be able to participate in the program. And so we are reaching out for partners, anybody that would be interested to partner with us to see that happens. And I'm happy to hear Stephanie mention that she's also working around that. And I'm sorry if it's not supposed to be raised here, but I just wanted to leverage on the conversation that is ongoing to also tell us about the program and if anybody or any group in the platform will be willing to partner with us for the program. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly would like to see if we can bring awareness of your program that you're doing there to the table as we have the conversations locally here with the institutions that are we are affiliated with, so we can begin conversations. For instance, I've suggested York University. Stephanie's already a student at University of Toronto. So there's two institutions potentially we can start talking with. And then they can probably invite their own colleagues, but across different, there's all the different departments within the university, but we want to cut across a lot of these departments. And I know that I mentioned York University because I know that many of the leaders there had originally wanted to break a lot of these silos that exist in universities, and all the different disciplines are focusing on their little narrow subjects of research or whatever, and teaching, but not really looking at things holistically.
Yeah,
So
thank you very much.
So we will follow up for sure, and I think at this point, as is 1:30, we can probably wrap up. But we didn't actually have any conversations about the subjects that I wanted to talk about today, which were the events that are coming up. But I will be doing some, as I said, Eventbrite pages for each one of them. There's three events coming up. At least two of them will need their own Eventbrite page for the Bowl Fun Festival. Probably it will just be for the 2023 event, and then the Climate Smart Youth Forum for October. And we're hoping that, of course, to get into a conversation with Dr. Amadou in Nigeria about that. And then there is an ongoing discussion around COP27 Egypt, which unfortunately we don't have an Egypt country chapter of any significance. I think the one person who had started it actually ended up leaving. So it's difficult to actually identify female leaders in Egypt who would be able to take a lead on that. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have some conversations with some of our partners in the US, in the diaspora, who are connected to organizations like Rotary International, where they may have Rotary clubs in these countries where we can actually leverage these existing networks, like Rotary clubs and others, even Lions clubs or any other boys and girls clubs, in order to see if we can launch in those countries as well. So I think we will finish up today. Thank you all for being on the call, and we will continue our discussions both on the WhatsApp as well as through the UNED meetings. Again, every Monday, we have the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora Zoom calls. On Tuesdays, we have every Tuesday is Prophet Cox show. Every Wednesday is the Bruce Lee Poverty